They invited the girl everyone called the charity case to the 10-year high school reunion just to watch her squirm, but she walked in as the head chef of the most talked-about restaurant in Vancouver, and nobody in that room was ready for what happened next. 14 years ago, Maya Okafor left Clearwater, Ontario the morning after graduation with one duffel bag, $17, and the particular kind of humiliation that doesn't wash off in the shower. The kind that follows you into new cities and sits beside you at job interviews and whispers, "Remember what they said about you," every time something starts to go right. She had not planned to come back. She had in fact spent considerable energy not coming back. And then she walked into her favorite coffee shop on a Tuesday morning, reached for the door handle, and the handle came off in her hand. Maya stood on the sidewalk in the rain holding a brass door handle that no longer belonged to a door, looked at it for 3 full seconds and said out loud to no one, "You have got to be kidding me." The door swung open from the inside. A man appeared, tall, dark jacket, the kind of face that had no business existing before 8 in the morning. And he looked at her, looked at the handle in her hand, looked back at her. "Did you just," he started. "The handle was already loose," Maya said. "Okay, I didn't break it, I believe you," he said, and he sounded like he almost did. She handed him the handle, which was an absurd thing to do, and he took it, which was even more absurd, and she walked past him into the warm, dry coffee shop with as much dignity as a person could carry after disassembling a door in public. His name, she would find out 20 minutes later, was Daniel Reeves. He sat 2 tables away with a coffee and a laptop and occasionally glanced up at her in a way that was not unfriendly. When she finally looked back, he smiled. When she looked away, she noticed, with the particular clarity that comes from peripheral vision, that he had something dark stuck between his front teeth. Coffee grounds, probably. Something. Her brain split in 2 directions immediately. Tell him. Do not tell him. He has a very good smile, and it is currently being undermined by what appears to be a small piece of something organic. If you tell him, he will be embarrassed. If you don't tell him, he will smile at 17 more people today with that in his teeth. What is the protocol here? There is no protocol. Someone should invent a protocol. You could be the person who invents the protocol. You could also just say something. You could also just, "You're doing something with your face," Daniel said. Maya blinked. "I'm not, you were staring at my teeth." "I wasn't staring. What were you doing?" She pressed her lips together. "There is something in your teeth, left side, small, dark." He ran his tongue over his teeth immediately, which was the correct response. His face went through 3 emotions in 2 seconds. "How long?" "Since you opened the door. Why didn't you say something sooner?" "I was working up to it." He laughed, which was unexpected, not the polite kind of laugh people give when something mildly awkward happens, but a real one, sudden and warm, like someone had caught him off guard. Maya felt it in her sternum, which was irritating. "I'm Daniel," he said. "Maya, you're not from here," he said, not unkindly. "I'm from Ontario, Clearwater." She watched his face, the way people's faces sometimes do something small when they hear that name. A flicker, a pause, but his did nothing. "You, originally?" He looked at the window just for a second. "Clearwater, actually." The coffee shop was quiet enough that she heard the rain on the glass. "Small world," she said. "Smaller than you'd think," he said. She did not know what he meant by that. She did not ask. Maya had come back to Clearwater for 1 weekend and 1 weekend only, to sort through the boxes her mother had been asking her to sort through for 2 years. She was not here for nostalgia. She was not here for memory. She was absolutely not here for the 10-year reunion that her old classmate Brianna Walsh had been mass texting about since January, with escalating levels of enthusiasm that suggested Brianna Walsh had peaked in grade 11 and was aware of this. The text had said things like, "It'll be so fun to see everyone," and "You have to come, Maya, people keep asking about you," and, most recently, "Derek is organizing the venue, he's so excited, you should reach out." Derek Holt. The name sat in Maya's chest like a stone she'd been carrying for a decade without noticing the weight. Derek Holt, who had stood in front of the entire grade 12 cafeteria and announced, loud enough for 2 lunch tables to hear, that Maya Okafor had only gotten into the culinary program at George Brown because her dad had called in a favor. Derek Holt, who had printed out her scholarship acceptance letter. She still did not know how he got it, and read the part about financial assistance out loud in a voice full of theatrical pity. Derek Holt, who had called her the charity case, once in a way that landed wrong, and then twice more in a way that was clearly intentional, and then it had spread the way those things spread in small schools, the way fire spreads when the air is dry. She had left Clearwater with $17 and she had never looked back. She had also, in the intervening 14 years, become the head chef of Aurelius, which Vancouver magazine had described as the kind of restaurant that makes you reassess what you thought you knew about Canadian cuisine, and which had a 4-month wait list, and which she had built from a 60-seat room and a kitchen the size of a generous closet into something that people flew in for. None of that mattered in Clearwater. In Clearwater, she was still Maya Okafor, the girl whose dad had called in a favor. Or so she assumed. She had not been back long enough to find out. She ran into Daniel again the next morning, at the same coffee shop, which she considered statistically improbable given that she was only in town for the weekend. "The door is fixed," he said when she walked in. "I can see that." She had tested it on the way in, twice, just to be safe. "Coffee? I was going to get my own. I ordered 2, he said. "I don't know why. I wasn't expecting anyone." He looked genuinely puzzled by his own behavior. "You can have the second one if you want." Maya sat down across from him because refusing felt unnecessarily complicated. He pushed the coffee toward her. She looked at his teeth before she could stop herself. "Clean." "Checked," he said. "Just cautious." He smiled, and this time there was nothing in it except the smile, and it was a better smile than she'd remembered from yesterday, which was a problem. They talked for 2 hours. She learned that Daniel Reeves had grown up in Clearwater, left at 18, built a software company in Calgary, and was back for his own version of sorting through boxes, though his were metaphorical. He did not elaborate on the metaphor. She did not push. She had her own metaphors she wasn't elaborating on. What she noticed, across those 2 hours, was the way he looked at the main street outside the window when he thought she wasn't watching. There was something complicated in it, something that looked like returning somewhere you'd promised yourself you wouldn't. She recognized the look because she'd seen it in her own bathroom mirror that morning. "Are you going to the reunion?" she asked at one point. She didn't know why she asked. She'd had no intention of mentioning the reunion to anyone. Something shifted in Daniel's expression. Small but there. "I got an invitation. That's not what I asked." A pause. He looked at his coffee cup. "I'm thinking about it." "Me too," Maya said, which was the first time she'd admitted this to anyone, including herself. "I keep telling myself no, but..." She didn't have an answer for the but. She turned it over in her head, the $17, the bronze handle, the cafeteria, and couldn't find a clean way to explain it to a man she'd met yesterday. "Unfinished business," she said finally. Daniel looked at her then, a direct look, the kind that takes a second to absorb. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Same." She found out about Derek's plan from the last person she expected. Chen, who had taught Maya home economics in grade 9 and apparently still ran the same classroom, came into the coffee shop on Saturday afternoon and sat down next to Maya with the easy familiarity of someone who had never fully accepted that her students grew up. "It's nice to see you back," Mrs. Chen said. "Are you coming to the reunion tonight?" "I haven't decided." Mrs. Chen looked at her over her reading glasses with an expression that suggested she was deciding right now whether Maya knew it or not. "Derek Holt is organizing it. He's been very..." She paused in the particular way that older women pause when they're choosing a diplomatic word for something that is not diplomatic, enthusiastic. "I heard. He's been showing people an old photo." From the cafeteria, Mrs. Chen set her tea down. "I thought you should know." Maya went very still. "He called it a trip down memory lane," Mrs. Chen said. Her voice was dry as paper. "He's planning to project it at the event, something about a slideshow. The cafeteria, the letter. The look on people's faces, the way they'd laughed, not cruelly exactly, just carelessly, which was somehow worse, because cruelty at least requires intention." Maya drove home, her mother's house technically, but still, and sat in the driveway for 10 minutes with the engine off. She opened her phone and found the text thread with Daniel. She had saved his number, which she had told herself was for practical reasons. "Did you know Derek is planning a slideshow?" she typed. The reply came in under a minute. "What kind of slideshow?" "The kind that involves old photos of specific people." A longer pause. "Then, I need to tell you something. Can we meet?" They met at the park near the old water tower, which was the kind of location that only makes sense in a small town where everything else is closed, or too loud, or too full of people who knew your parents. Daniel had his hands in his pockets. He looked like someone rehearsing a speech. "I know who Derek is," he said. "Not just from school. I know what he did." Maya waited. "He did the same thing to me," Daniel said. "Different situation. He told people I'd cheated on the provincial math competition. I hadn't. But by the time it got sorted out," he stopped. It didn't matter that it was sorted out. The version that people remembered was the other one. The water tower cast a long shadow over the grass. "He's been doing this his whole life," Maya said. "Deciding who gets to belong and who doesn't." "Yeah." Daniel looked at her. Are you going tonight? She had said no to herself 6 times in the past 24 hours. She had drafted a text to Brianna Walsh twice and deleted it both times. She had stood in front of her mother's hall mirror that morning and thought about the girl who had left with $17 and thought, she has no idea what you built. Yes, Maya, I'm going. Daniel nodded slowly. I'll be there. You don't have to, I know. He looked at her, steady and clear. I want to be. She almost said something sentimental, which would have been embarrassing. Instead, she looked at his jacket collar, which had a small crease folded inward, and said, Your collar. He reached up, fixed it, looked at her. Thank you. I seem to keep noticing things on you. I seem to keep having things to notice. He paused. I appreciate it, genuinely. They stood there for a moment longer than necessary, which is the kind of moment that means something without any of it being said. The community hall had been decorated within an inch of its life. String lights, round tables, a photo wall near the entrance with pictures printed on foam board. Mostly group shots, sports teams, formal photos with corsages and ties. Maya scanned the wall as she walked in and felt the particular bodily sensation of being somewhere your nervous system has decided is a threat. Brianna Walsh found her within 90 seconds, wearing a dress that cost more than Maya's first knife set and carrying a glass of white wine like a small shield. Maya! Oh my gosh, you look amazing, you haven't changed at all. The words came out as one continuous sound. Are you still doing the cooking thing? I'm the head chef of a restaurant in Vancouver, Maya said. That's so great, Brianna said in a tone that suggested she wasn't sure whether that was great or not. Derek is going to be so surprised to see you. He literally said last week he didn't think you'd come. Maya smiled the smile she used when suppliers were late. She found a table near the back and sat with the wall behind her, which she'd learned to do in kitchens. Always know where the exit is, always see the whole room. The hall was filling up. She recognized faces in the way you recognize old songs. Something tugs, you place it, and then you're 17 again for 3 uncomfortable seconds. Derek Holt was by the stage. She spotted him immediately, the same way you spot weather coming in from the west. Something in the quality of the air. He was taller than she remembered. Same confidence, same way of standing like he expected the room to organize itself around him. He was talking to 2 men Maya vaguely recognized from the football team, both of them laughing at something Derek had just said. He hadn't seen her yet. She watched him set up near the projector screen, talking to someone with a laptop, pointing at something on the monitor, the slideshow. Her stomach did a slow, deliberate turn, and then the main doors opened. Maya heard it before she saw it, a shift in the room's attention, the way sound changes when something unexpected walks in. She turned. Daniel Reeves walked in wearing a suit that fit the way suits fit in magazines, which is to say perfectly, in a way that suggested it had been made for that specific body. He walked with the kind of quiet that takes up space. Not loud, not aggressive, just entirely present, the way people are when they've stopped needing anyone's approval. Maya had not known until this moment that she was looking at the co-founder of Reeves Hartley, which was the software company that had been in the news 6 months ago for acquiring 3 smaller firms and being valued at something that made the number feel fictional. She knew this because she was looking at him now, and several people in the room were pulling out their phones, and she could see, from the expressions on their faces, that they were looking him up. Daniel crossed the hall without looking at anyone in particular. He found her table. He sat down. Your suit, Maya said. What about it? It's very, she searched for the word. CEO, he offered. I was going to say pressed, she said, but yes, he almost smiled. You didn't tell me what you did for work, head chef. Aurelius, Vancouver. Something moved behind his eyes. I've been trying to get a reservation there for 4 months. You should have said something. I didn't know. I didn't know either, she said. About your company. They looked at each other across the small table while the reunion moved around them, and Maya felt something settle in her chest. Not calm exactly, but clear. The kind of clear that comes right before you do something that needs doing. He's setting up the projector, she said. I know. Daniel had already seen it. How do you want to do this? I haven't decided yet, okay. He didn't push. He just sat there, beside her, present in the way he'd been present at the park. No agenda, no speech, just there. Derek Holt found the microphone. All right, everyone. His voice was practiced, smooth, the voice of a man who had been imagining this moment. Welcome to the Clearwater High 10-year reunion. Applause, some of it enthusiastic, some of it polite. I've got a few things planned for tonight, including a little trip down memory lane. He grinned, the grin of someone who believes himself charming. Some of you might recognize a few faces on screen. He nodded at the man with the laptop. The projector flickered on, and then Daniel stood up. He did it quietly. No announcement. He simply stood, and the table near him went quiet first, and then the tables around it, and then the ripple moved through the room the way ripples do when something significant displaces the water. Derek looked up, found Daniel. His smile flickered. Daniel. He recovered quickly, microphone still in hand. Didn't expect to see you here, man. Great that you could make it, Derek. Daniel's voice was completely even. Before you run that slideshow, I think we should talk. The room was very quiet. Someone's phone buzzed and the owner silenced it immediately, embarrassed by the noise. It's just a fun thing, Derek said. Nostalgia, you know. Old photos. Nothing the photo of Maya Okafor, Daniel said, from the cafeteria, when you read her scholarship letter out loud. Is that the nostalgia you're referring to? The silence became a different kind of silence. Maya felt every person in the room recalibrate. Derek's jaw tightened. He tried to laugh. Come on, that was years ago. That was just. It was the morning after she got into one of the most competitive culinary programs in the country on a full merit scholarship, Daniel said. And you stood in a cafeteria and told a room full of people she only got it because of her dad. I was 17. You're planning to show the photo tonight, so it's not really about being 17. Another silence, longer this time. Maya stood up. She hadn't planned to. Her legs did it before the rest of her caught up, and then she was standing, and the room was looking at her, and there was nothing to do but continue. I left Clearwater the morning after graduation, she said. Her voice was steadier than she expected. I had $17 and I didn't tell anyone where I was going because I was embarrassed to stay and embarrassed to leave, and I couldn't figure out which was worse. She paused. I've spent a lot of years not thinking about that cafeteria, or trying not to. The room was very still. I'm the head chef of Aurelius in Vancouver. If you follow food media at all, you may have heard of it. If you haven't, the short version is that I built it from nothing. I hold a James Beard nomination, and last month we were named one of the 50 best restaurants in North America. She looked at Derek. Not with anger, she'd expected to feel anger, but what she felt instead was something quieter, almost like pity. I didn't need anyone to call in a favor, I never did. Derek opened his mouth, closed it. You're welcome to run the slideshow, Maya said, but I thought I'd give the room some context first. She sat back down. Her hands under the table were shaking slightly, but that was fine. Shaking was fine. She'd plated dishes with shaking hands before. Daniel leaned slightly toward her. You okay? Ask me in 10 minutes. He nodded. He did not make a speech. He did not turn it into a moment about himself. He just sat there, which was, she was realizing, something he was very good at. Derek did not run the slideshow. He turned the microphone over to someone else after a few minutes that must have felt long to him. And the evening continued with the awkward persistence of events that have been planned for too long to be canceled. People got drinks. Old friends found each other. The string lights did their job. Maya was outside on the steps getting air when Derek came out. She'd known he would. These things always have a second act. I owe you an apology, he said. He said it like a man who had been coached at some point in his life on how to apologize without admitting to too much. What I did in the cafeteria, I shouldn't have. No, Maya agreed. You shouldn't have. I was. He searched for something. I was competitive. I was threatened, probably. You were better than me in the kitchen, and I didn't deal with it well. It was the most honest thing she'd heard him say, possibly ever. She considered it. I appreciate that, she said, and she did, approximately. She didn't forgive him, not fully, not in the way that gets tied up and completed, but she felt something loosen in her chest that had been there so long she'd stopped noticing it. He went back inside. Maya stayed on the steps. Daniel appeared with 2 glasses of water, which she appreciated more than wine right now. How's the 10 minutes? He asked. Almost up. She took the water. You didn't have to do that. In there I know, but you did it anyway. You would have handled it without me, he said. You were going to handle it without me. Probably. He paused, searching for the honest version. I know what it is to have someone tell a room full of people a story about you that isn't true, and then live inside that story for longer than it deserves. He looked at her. I didn't want you to have to stand up alone. Maya looked at the main street of Clearwater, Ontario, quiet on a Saturday evening, the same town she'd left in the dark with a duffel bag and a bruised sense of herself, and she thought, it looks smaller than I remembered. Not diminished. Just smaller. The way things look when you've grown past them. There's something in your hair, she said. Daniel reached up, found a piece of string from the decorations apparently shed on his way out. He held it up, looked at it, looked at her. You have a gift. I notice things. You do. He said it simply, without layers. I like that about you. The night air was cool in the specific way of Ontario in late summer, that edge of something turning, And Maya thought about her kitchen in Vancouver, the morning prep, the sound of the hood fans, the particular satisfaction of a dish leaving the pass exactly right. She thought about $17 and what you can build from almost nothing if you're willing to not look back. She had looked back once, tonight, and it turned out the thing she'd been afraid of was already smaller than she thought. "I'm going back to Vancouver on Monday," she said. "I'm in Calgary until November," Daniel said. "That's a long way. It's not that far," he said, which was technically true and also not the point, and they both knew it. Maya looked at him sideways. "Are you suggesting something?" "I'm suggesting," he said carefully, "that if you ever wanted to have a coffee that I actually ordered intentionally, with a second cup I actually meant for you, I'd like that. In Vancouver, or Calgary, or here if you ever came back." A pause. "Though I understand if you don't." She thought about it. Not long, she already knew. "I might," she said, "come back, occasionally." She tilted her glass toward him. "The door handle's fixed, apparently." "I checked," he said. "Solid. Probably good for another decade." High praise. From someone who's seen what you can do to infrastructure? Extremely high praise. She laughed, and it came out more genuine than she intended, and the night air was cool, and Clearwater sat around them quiet and smaller than she'd remembered, and it was fine. It was all actually fine. "Okay," she said. "Okay, the coffee. Intentionally with the second cup you meant to order." She looked at. "Yes," Daniel smiled, and this time she checked immediately, out of habit, and there was nothing. Clean, clear, just the smile. "I'm learning," he said. Slowly, she agreed. "But yes." They walked back inside together, and the door opened cleanly on the first try, and Maya thought, the universe, when it wants to, has decent timing.